So it's only been like 800 years since Fate Extella Link first had its first collaboration campaign with Fate Grand Order that we finally now have Charlemagne in the game. And while he definitely does live up to the hype, and I'm glad that he was, delayed for so long, because he's definitely insanely good, I just can't help but feel sad that we don't have Rex Magnus Carl, otherwise known as the man, the myth, the legend, Magnum Dong himself. But I can only hope that in like a part 2 banner or maybe a part 3 for 6.5 we get Rex Magnus Carl, alright? I want to see my man Magnum Dong in the game, but that's not why we're here today. Today we're here to talk about Charlemagne and why he's absolutely just disgustingly broken. But before we begin, if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel, as I do hit you guys with that daily FGO content, sometimes a double upload if I'm feeling particularly cheeky. And if you want to get even more free content, I stream every weekday over on my Twitch, which is also linked down in the description down below. But enough tomfoolery, let's start talking about Charlemagne, starting off with his hits. And in the year of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, 2022, they have decided to drop Charlemagne not as an art servant, not as a buster servant, but as in the kind of dying meta of a quick servant. But they did their best to try to fix this man up. He's got a lot of tools to make himself work as a very, very strong looping servant. In the first place you're going to see that is in his hits. Really, I mean, if you can look at his normal hits, they're all fine. I mean, like, 4 hits on double quick cards is fine. 3 hits on double arts cards, that's really good. You're really going to need to get crits on those double arts cards because he only has 0.48% NP gain, but that shouldn't be a problem because if you look at his NP is rocking 12 hits on it, which is an absolutely ludicrous number of hits, and is going to allow him to overkill very easily, which if you don't know, that is absolutely crucial to looping. Especially so with your quick servants because they struggle a bit more compared to art servants when it comes to actually looping their NP. So that's already like a ludicrous, insane start. Something else I kind of want to mention right here is that he does have a passive 10% quick buff as well. So those quick cards are even better than they're going to be coming off as. And then obviously they gave him the 5-hit extra attack because, I mean, they wanted to make him one of the best servants in the game. So they had to give him the 5-hit extra attack. And if you don't know why that's a big deal, the extra attack is a composite card that gen stars NP and does big boy damage. Although Charlemagne's not going to really be taking that much advantage over it because his NP gain and his natural star gen are a little bit more on the average side, but they still gave it to him for the principle alone, and I gotta respect that. So let's go ahead and start moving into some of his skills because his skills are a little nutty. First and foremost, we have skill 1, and basically how this is going to function is that you never want to target this on Charlemagne himself, because what it's going to do is it's a targetable 2-hit of invincibility, and you want to use this to kind of like protect your other knights or hit his other comrades, quote unquote, because then if he doesn't give it to himself, he gives himself 20% NP gain for 5 turns, and then he gives himself a buff that every time he gets hit, he gets a heroic king stack that's going to go into his NP to give him basically bonus damage. And if you do try to give this to Charlemagne himself, he will seal his own NP. So basically, you give this to one of his knights, he protects them, he gets the NP gain, which is not only going to help him loop easier, but then he also gets a buff that basically functions as his own special damage mod. And I really like how this is built in because it's not like, say, your traditional anti-demon, anti-divinity, anti-whatever servant, right? And he could pretty much pull this out against anybody because it's something that he applies to himself to give himself more damage. It's kind of in the way that I really like Summer Kama, how Summer Kama can put the charm on anybody and then get the massive damage. It's like that, but a little bit better because, well, charm is very nice because you can put it on anybody, basically. It's not really restricted to any special trait or anything. This is something he just inherently gives to himself, and it will massively gas up the amount of damage that he's doing, which, again, very good for farming, very good for killing bosses, and it's just overall a very, very strong start to the servant. Just please try to not give this first skill to him, right? Like, try to use your other servants to keep him alive if things are getting really that dicey. Then we move over to his second skill, which is basically his god tier charisma, and it pretty much lives up to the hype. He'll be gassing up the party with just a numerous amount of just different very, very strong buffs. He'll be giving everybody a 20% attack buff for 3 turns, and then 2 specific damage mod things. One gives them all damage against demonic enemies, that's 30% for 3 turns, and then he offers defense to your allies by giving them 30% defense against divine enemies for 3 turns, while also charging his own NP gauge by 30%. So again, if you're someone that just cares about farming, he's giving himself a pretty decent attack buff, can basically fund his own special damage mod on the first skill, gives himself NP gain. Then if he's fighting anybody that's demonic, which again, this is not just demonic servants, this includes all the random demonic enemies you can fight, he's going to be looking very good, on top of also giving himself a 30% battery that, again, if you level up his second append skill, can function as a quote-unquote fake 50% battery and can allow him to be compatible with any 50% startup charge CE, which is very good. Although something that I think is going to be underrated is the defense he gives the entire party against the divine enemies, because a lot of the stronger bosses that we fight in the game are all divine enemies, and this is going to help you stay alive that much easier in those fights against some of those very, very tough bosses that you will be fighting. It means that not only will Charlemagne be very, very good on his own and pretty self-sufficient in being able to fight these bosses, but remember that he's offering that defense to them, he's giving them some form of offense in the special damage mod and the attack buff, but then he also wants to give them the 2 hits of invincibility, which is also very, very good at keeping your allies alive. Then finally, we look at his third skill, which just kind of rounds out the rest of his kit. He's going to give himself 30% quick performance for 3 turns, which is very, very good. That is going to multiply into all of the other buffs that he's giving himself, because different buff types in FGO actually multiply into each other. They are not additive. This is very strong as well, because being a quick performance buff means it's going to buff not only the damage of his quick cards, but also the NP gain. So again, this guy should be just farming absolutely like a dream. But then since he has a 12-hit NP and will be dropping a lot of stars, especially if you're fighting numerous opponents and you can take advantage of that absolutely insane 12-hit count on the NP, he's going to be able to buff his own critical damage by at least 30% for 3 turns. But if he's fighting somebody that has the evil alignment, which again, not just limited to servants, it could be literally anybody, because it doesn't say evil alignment servants, it says evil alignment enemies, which is a very good distinction, because it means he's more viable in far more situations and not just restricted to fighting servant bosses. He gets an additional 50% crit damage for those 3 turns. Keep in mind that 50% crit damage is what Waiver offers people, so if you need kind of a frame of reference for how strong that 50% is, there you go. So then total, he would have an 80% crit damage buff, which is just absolutely insane. And then I guess we'll just go ahead and talk about the NP here while we're here, because the NP is essentially just going to be a big bungus beat stick. Again, I've mentioned it a few times, but that 12-hit AoE NP is extremely broken. That is going to allow him to function very well as a star genning servant and as a looping servant, so that is just bonkers broken. But then he has 2 other ways to not only buff his damage, but also offer more damage to the party, because I already mentioned that he is able to stack those heroic king buffs from his first skill to give himself more and more damage. But then on overcharge, he also reduces all enemies' quick resistance by 20% at least for 3 turns. If you want to give him higher levels of overcharge, you can get up to 40%. And keep in mind, this means if you have any other quick offensive servants, maybe you're doing like a hybrid build where you got like one Scotty, a Charlemagne, and then, I don't know, someone like MHX Alter in your team comp, right? Like you brought a single target or something like that. It's going to give them more damage as well, because he's lowering the enemy's quick resistance. And this also means his follow-up NPs are going to start doing more and more damage if he's fighting the same opponent. Obviously, for farming, doesn't really matter all that much, because you're probably going to obliterate the enemy, so it doesn't really matter that they have the quick resistance down, because it doesn't apply first. But if he is fighting a boss, it just means that Charlemagne is going to get stronger and stronger as the fight goes on. So is this guy worth rolling for? I would say most definitely yes. If you have Scotty on your JP account, this is like a must summon guy. If you have Scotty and Okita Alter Saber, you'll probably be fine, because Okita Alter Saber is also very, very broken, and she'll be doing just fine on her own in your account. But if you didn't manage to get her, I mean, this guy is absolutely one of those must summon servants, because he is just bonkers broken. And I would definitely say he was worth the wait for like the 800 million years since we last got the Fate Accelerate collaboration campaign. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Was Charlemagne worth the wait? Were you able to get him? For those of you guys that may be wondering like why you can only see his second ascension, basically you can fully level up your Charlemagne, but they're only going to reveal the 3rd and 4th ascension as the story progresses. I'm assuming that's because of spoilers or something like that. It's the same for like the Siegfried lady, the goth chick who you can only get to Ascension 3 right now. You know, I'm assuming it's just for spoiler reasons. They're not allowing us to see their full Ascension, so don't worry, don't freak out. It's not like you can only level them up to level 60 or something. It's nothing like that. You're still absolutely free to use them. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We are that close to 20K, and I can just smell it. We're so close to 20K. So help your boy out. Come and get some free content by coming out to the Twitch streams every weekday around the same ZTL time on the same ZTL channel. If you want to support the channel, you can click that join button to become a channel member and gain access to channel member exclusive content. And finally, if you want to support the channel for absolutely free, aside from just liking and subscribing and all that good stuff, you can download LD Emulator in the description down below. It's a very good way to play mobile games on your PC, and I personally use it for both my main JP and NA FGO accounts. So, you know, I do believe in the product, and I, you know, use that when I stream. I'm like, I'm not gonna, you know, recommend a product if I'm not gonna put my own accounts on the line. So yeah, I mean, I do believe in it. I think it's a very good product, and you can support the channel for absolutely free. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace, late guys.